Guys, we are back for another episode of It's Not Complicated from Central United Methodist Church. I'm Reverend Jenny Williams. I'm the senior pastor. And remember, we are recapping the Bible in just a year. So we're trucking right along. I'm here with two of my favorite co-hosts.
I'm Reverend Chase, the executive pastor at Central.
I'm Reverend Virginia Brown. I'm the college pastor and the Wesley director.
We also have a special guest with us today. And Chase, I'm going to let you introduce him.
So we are planning to go to a mission trip to El Salvador, and so we have a very special guest with us today, our missionary from El Salvador, Mr. Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian Beverly, and I'm a missionary volunteers and mission coordinator for the Methodist Church in El Salvador.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for all your
Thanks
work.
for having me. Yeah, great.
So we're kind of touring town today, and so I said, "Do you want to come in and hang out with us at the podcast?" He was like, "Yeah, maybe."
See how it goes.
Brian, we'll see after we're finished recording how you feel about this decision you've made.
No, it was great. It was great hearing you guys talk about all the kings and the killing and stuff that happens in the Old Testament.
Kings and killing.
To look forward.
That's basically the recap. Y'all can actually stop listening now. So anyway, so we're glad to be back. Reminder, when we dive in, Bible can be complicated.
A lot.
Our title is actually a lie. So remember, if you are with sensitive ears in the car, if you have some things that might trigger you, just be mindful as you listen, and we're excited to dive back in. I just as a caveat, I may or may not have been listening to last week's episode in the airport, and I just want to assure all of our listeners that I did get trip gifts, and I definitely did not get them running around the airport looking for anyone that might have a gift that I could buy. I did. Anyway, glad to be back.
We're so grateful.
Oh, guys.
Hey, we're back together.
It's been...
I got
Yeah, trip gifts, right?
Gifts, yes. I took mine home yesterday.
Yay.
Finally.
So here we are. It's day 78, 2 Samuel, starting in chapter 20.
I'm excited.
I mean, same. So
Let's not get too excited.
Tuesday morning, for sure.
So here in 2 Samuel, this whole saga hints at something that I think I've missed in past readings of this section of the Bible. Mm-hmm. Because in my mind, I think of the division of the northern and southern kingdom, something that happens basically after Solomon's reign, right? Which is like, spoiler alert, Solomon will reign in a couple of chapters. But the reality is that the division between the northern and the southern tribes had existed all along.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And so we see that here in this story in chapter 20. But when we talk about David's like glowing reign, the era of the golden era, it's not because there were no divisions.
Yeah.
It's because that despite the divisions, David managed to keep the kingdom united as one for a while.
Oh,
So
39 years.
Good job.
Yeah, exactly.
Ish. Yeah.
So our main player is Sheba. And he is, according to my translation of the Bible, a despicable scoundrel.
Yeah. Mine just said it's despicable, and so I was like, what? So
A scoundrel.
yeah.
I guess when I think of Sheba, though, I think of like the queen of Sheba.
Yeah.
And that's we're not there yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
soon
not
and
yet.
very soon. But so he's from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay. All right.
You
Chase,
knew it was coming.
I should have known. Sheba is from the tribe of Benjamin, and he decides he's going to defy David's authority. And he,
Always a good idea.
I mean, why not? And he raises an army from Israel, which is in the north, and he wants to go and fight Judah, which is the southern territory.
Again, fighting.
Well, I mean, they
That's
probably
kind of
were
his
bored.
thing.
I mean, what are we going to do? Just, be in a kingdom?
Peaceful,
Right.
in the land of honey, and
Right.
all that good
Yeah.
stuff.
And the big grapes?
Right.
We're just so bored.
I know.
I guess that's their only option.
I guess so. It's like living in a small town, right?
Fair.
Try that in a small town.
Ew. God. Jenny.
Did you hear about Deladine?
I don't even know what you said. Deladine. Oh my gosh. Speaking of baby names, that's not biblical, but it is a great name.
It is.
Anyway, so David hears that Sheba's going to come out and get up against him. So he sends Amasa, who was formerly Absalom's general, and he's like, call up the boys. So Amasa goes out, but he took too long.
Oh, no.
Yeah. David's like, I can't wait. And so he sends Joab
Get the job done.
to handle Sheba.
Yes.
But on the way to handle Sheba, Joab runs into Amasa.
Oh, gosh.
And he does the whole drop the sword trick. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you drop your sword and then you pick it up and you stab someone right in the abdomen.
Yeah.
Age old trick.
Okay, well, we did a disclosure at the beginning of the podcast that, we might hear something like a little sensitive, so let's spice it up a bit.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to do it because the Bible does it for us.
True.
Joab struck him in the belly so that his entrails poured out onto the ground.
Oh, no.
And just to drive home how potent and deadly the strike was, the Bible continues, it says he did not have to do a second blow.
No, one was enough. Okay.
Thanks
all
for
right.
that. Thanks for that.
I feel like that was disrespectful. So my study Bible reminded me that Joab is the same person who killed Saul's
Yes.
general.
Yes.
For being disloyal.
He is.
This is just his vibe.
Yeah.
Like Amasa just was wrong place, wrong time, wrong title.
Joab is. Ew.
Yeah. So Joab and bros head after Sheba and they meet up with him at Abel. And there this is a pretty cool trick. They pile up a ramp against the city wall. And then they're just going to walk up the ramp into the city. But wait,
No
first,
one notices?
Well, I
What?
don't know. There's this wise woman in the city, and she comes out and she's like, "What in the Sam Hill are you fools doing?"
You would.
I just assume that's what her accent sounded like.
Probably. She's from the Southern Kingdom.
Yeah, sure. Point. Okay, so Joab's like, "Look, we just piled this here ramp up because we want to get to that Sheba dude." And the lady's like, "Listen, I've got you. Please do not tear apart our city. Here's his head," and she tosses
What?
the head of Sheba out over the wall to
Here you go.
to Joab and his crew, and she's like, "Bye." And that's over. Done and done.
Yeah, and then that's it.
Okay.
Just great story.
Yep.
Done deal.
Chapter 20 done. Chapter 21. This was really funny to me because somehow, how long has Saul been dead at this point?
A good minute.
And somehow he has caused a famine. I love blaming former leaders for the problems that I have now.
I mean,
it is such a good feeling. Like,
it's
this was
like-
not me. This was the deceased person.
This has been around since the history of humans.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Saul, what happened according to chapter 21 is that Saul was, he tried to decimate the Gibeonites. This was a while back. But the problem was the Gibeonites had made a covenant with Joshua, like way back in the day. And they said, they were actually the Aramites.
Yeah, the Aramites, they were the remnants of what was left of the Aramites.
Yeah. Or Ammonites.
Ammonites.
I don't know.
No,
It was
Amorites.
Amorites. That's right. Woo. Okay, so the Gibeonites are the remnant of the Amorites, and the Amorites had made a covenant with Joshua, but Saul had gotten territorial, as you would,
Yeah.
and he tried to wipe him out anyway.
Yeah.
So David, they're mad, and David's like, one of his gifts is that he makes mad people less mad somehow.
Right.
Sometimes he just kills them, but other times he appeases them. And so he says,
watches
"Listen,
them.
what can I do to make this right?" And they're like, "Listen, we don't ask for much. We just would like the head of all of Saul's sons."
Just 7 of
I'm
them.
like, wait a second. We just read about that, and all of Saul's sons died, and so we're talking about
grandkids.
grandkids.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The point is, they don't want Saul's throne to have any sort of lineage left. And so David's like, okay.
Which goes against the
you know.
covenant that he made with Jonathan.
That's right. Which
That is true.
remember,
That
okay,
is
so
true.
first of all, scholars say this is probably pretty calculated on David's behalf, because he was, yes, making peace with these people they had wronged, but also this was a good way to clear out any competition to his throne.
True.
Yeah, fair.
But he did spare Mephibosheth, which is Jonathan's son.
Yeah.
And
Because
this
he had the
was-
best name.
Well, because of his name, but also because of the covenant that
Of
he had made
course,
with Jonathan.
yes.
But one of Saul's daughters, so this would be, I believe, aunt to all these men who were killed. She was so upset about all of this that she covered all the bodies of these brothers
For months.
for months
Yeah.
and wouldn't let the birds get to the bodies. And when David hears about this, he feels something.
Something.
Like
Just a
this-
little.
like just a little something in his heart. And so he
Only takes a spark.
Okay. And so he gathers up all of the bodies of the people the Gibeonites have killed, as well as he brings Saul and Jonathan's bones and he buries them all together, which is an ancient act of respect, I guess.
mean, is it?
I don't know.
I find it fascinating. Like death, there's this ideal of death and separation of one's essence and the body. But yet there's still reverence for what remains, either as a reverent act, like burying them, or as an exemplar, like hanging them up on the wall or
Right.
something like that. See, this is what happens when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but moving on in chapter 21, we got to go to war with the Philistines.
We, haven't done that in a bit.
Yeah. It's like dragging Maine, right? Like, let's get down there and see what the Sonic has.
I tell you what.
So David goes to war.
That's what we
When
did.
you drag Maine,
What's that?
you just drive up and down Main
drive up
Street.
and down Main Street.
You might stop at the Sonic and get a Coke.
Yeah, in Searcy, Arkansas,
Maybe
it was
I did grow up in a bigger city.
Race Street.
Yeah.
Back and forth. Yeah, that's what it was
Anyway.
called.
And then you would just like hang out on the side of Main Street, like on the hood of your car, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Or
didn't live in a
Walmart
small
parking
town, but I
lot.
have family that did.
Or the Kroger parking lot.
Kroger.
Yes.
the Hutchisons, the Krogers.
Kroger's. That's right.
Okay, so we're at war with the Philistines, and this story. This is a reminder that the Bible was compiled and edited because this story sounds a little familiar. Now, at first, David goes to war, but he gets really tired and they get really worried. They're like, we cannot lose our shining star. So they tell David, you are not allowed to go to war with us anymore. You are actually holding us back.
That might be a good idea.
I think so.
Yeah.
But then there's this like brief little interlude where it tells us that Elhanan kills Goliath.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
What?
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So a couple different things. Some of the biblical translations say the brother of Goliath.
Yeah. Chronicles,
Okay.
Chronicles really works this out for us.
Yeah, thanks Chronicles.
Yeah.
But this particular translation does not have that. It just says Goliath, and Elhanan is another guy. But it's a reminder that maybe these stories could have been like conflated together. So, or maybe some people have suggested that Elhanan was another name for David. That doesn't make sense to me.
Now, in this story, though, we do have, in Chronicles, it does do some other things, but in this story, we have a different weapon. So there's a spear that this giant has that's known for the brother of Goliath to have.
Gotcha.
Whereas Goliath had the sword, which David used to cut off Goliath's head.
That makes sense. And also, if Goliath, has come to mean what it means now, which is just ginormous, it makes sense that they might just call all the big guys Goliaths back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Everybody had the same name anyway. So
Listen,
true.
I'm driving the van right now, and I'm the church van, because we have a guest here that we just met a minute ago. And but I parked this morning really close to a car, and I had to go through the other side to get back in, and I felt like Goliath.
Oh my goodness. I was like, where is this going?
and then there's another little brief interlude about a dude with 6 fingers on each hand
What?
and 6 toes on each foot. And this makes him more powerful for some
Is
reason?
he not left-handed?
I don't know. I don't get it.
He has 6 fingers on his left hand. No, nothing.
No.
Not a reference from Princess Bride.
Princess Bride. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Wow.
I am not left-handed.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
So I just wonder if I had 6 toes like on each foot, would I fall down more? I think I would
you'd
just trip.
Better stability.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Who knows? Anyway, so they kill him. So that's that.
And this was another giant or descendant of giants. So this is like what do you call a group of giants? It would be a flock.
No.
A horde.
A murder of giants.
A murder of giants. There we go.
That's what you call crows. A murder of crows.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that from One Tree Hill.
That's right.
Who says you can't learn stuff on television?
There you go.
Maybe the only thing we learned from One Tree Hill.
Absolutely. All right. Let's see.
We love these stories, but you know what we really need?
What?
When you have stories, you need some music to go.
You need a song break. The next chapter, 22, all I wrote was that it was David's greatest hits. I do not have time to cover all of this. It was also, it does praise God a lot. That was nice. It also does some self-praise in there from time to time.
I think it also goes back on what Chase and I said last week about David being the most dramatic biblical character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's like, I have a dance that I need to express at this moment. So chapter 23 moves on to David's final words. Now, I will say in his final words, he had not learned the humility of Moses. It says, and I quote, "If my house were not right with God, surely he would not have made with me an everlasting covenant. Surely he would not bring fruition to fruition my salvation and grant me every desire."
I mean, I don't know that God gave you those desires, but
No.
God help you clean them up.
Yeah, no kidding. Anyway, I just thought, okay, David, go home. Why don't you go lay down, honey?
Go lay down. Go take a nap, please.
So then we get this whole list of David's chief warriors. And then there are 3 who are the main ones, and they come to David in a cave. Oh crap.
There's another another cave.
What's that
And
smell?
crap reference.
Yeah, that was
Oh
the
my
joke.
goodness.
Yeah, thanks
I got it.
thanks for explaining my joke. They're always better when you explain them.
David's Avengers here in this cave.
But David's like, I'm so thirsty. Will you go get me water at Bethlehem? So they have to break through the Philistine camp just to get him the water. And when they bring him the water back, then David's like, I can't drink this.
Are you kidding me, David?
He's like, he poured it out on the ground in front of them. And he's like, you risked your lives. So this is basically like drinking your blood. Speaking of a dramatic flair,
my
what
God.
in the world is he talking about?
Dude.
So the warriors are like, all right, dude. But then they did some lion killing. They did some Egyptian giant slaughtering. And then Abishai was the best of the chief warriors. But did you notice in that list of 37, did you notice whose name was on that list?
Among the 30.
Out of 37, nothing ring a bell.
Uriah the Hittite.
Ooh.
Yeah, right?
Interesting.
The very last one. And the note on my Bible said that this was to note that David's glory and his folly all kind of in one list.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Chapter 24. God is mad at Israel.
Again.
What?
Why?
Surprise.
We don't know, actually. But David, in response to God's anger, decides to go take a census.
You know what time we need to move into? They just needed to do a census.
Yeah, it's time.
been
But
10
this
years.
is actually a sin according to the law.
Oh, no.
Isn't this a year for a census for us?
I don't know, Chase.
It's every 4 years, right? Or is it
It's
every
every
10?
10.
Every 10. So 2020 was the last one.
Okay. So this is not a year for a census for
No.
us, which thank God, because then we would be sinning. And I would feel very bad about that. So the census takes 9 months and 20 days for David to complete, or his people.
Not much has changed in millennia.
And then, right. And then David realizes what he's done.
Oh, no.
And he's like, God, I'm so sorry. And God basically says the equivalent to go outside and choose your own switch.
Yeah.
He gives him three.
Go pick
God
it.
gives him 3 options of punishment, and David picks the plague. 70,000 people die by morning.
You already counted them. Now you have to, recount them?
You could. It's a clean number, at least, just minus 70,000.
Oh, okay. We'll just use subtraction. Okay.
But God regrets the disaster and ends it. And so then the moral of that story, the closing of that story, is that David makes an altar, repents, and decides to trust God.
Yeah.
Wish he would have made that decision a little earlier.
Come on, dude.
So it's interesting because in 1st and 2nd Samuel in particular, there's this really strong personification of God with such human traits, God with irrational anger and then regret and responses and changing minds. And it just is reminding me that these writers were making sense of their understanding of God in really human ways, in the ways they understood best. And so just to bear that in mind. So
Yeah.
that closes out 1st and 2nd Samuel.
Woohoo!
We're going to move on to 1st Kings. We're on day 79, chapter 1 of 1st Kings. Well, we're just going to dive right in.
I know, like huge problem.
Right.
First thing,
David is very old, and he is very cold. By the way,
he is very cold. He is.
He's probably around 70 here. So not very old. I guess it's all relative.
Yeah.
The cold part, because like my parents always tell me, so when you get older, your blood gets thinner, and we're cold all the time, and like they have the heater going on in summer.
Oof.
Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I love it.
Well, there is.
Just don't do what David did.
I mean, there is
I
a
love good
plan of what he did.
sweatshirt,
Yikes.
Air condition blowing.
Yeah.
Blankets.
Yeah.
I love all that.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll help.
I don't know.
I don't
know.
That's not what he did.
do?
So the blankets are not enough. He needs a hot virginal body to keep his tootsies
What it
toasty
says.
warm.
That's right.
But it also, so they got this young woman to lie next to David to keep him warm, but he definitely did not have sex with her. That's what the Bible says.
Well,
And the Bible says it.
That's right.
That settles it.
it's kind of like in scout training when you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Body
cool.
heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's science, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I saw something that said this scene is possibly a euphemism to test David's virility.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
So they had like a young woman come and lay next to him to see if he still had it, and he did not have it.
No.
So so it actually is probably true that he did not sleep with her, but so
Time to go.
There's some awkward.
probably because he was
openings
too
of
old and too
First
cold.
Kings.
Could've just
Anyway.
asked.
Yeah. So David could have just asked. David's son Adonijah is coming in hot for the throne. He is the 4th out of David's 6 sons, and he was a looker, but he had no discipline because David had let him do whatever he want.
Sounds like
by
David,
the
I
time
guess.
you have 4 kids, I can imagine that they're running the roost, like they're rolling the roost, right?
Oh, yeah. He has
So-
no control
Yeah.
over them.
So Adonijah prepared a meal for his brothers and the citizens of Judah, but he left Nathan, Benaniah, some veterans, and namely Solomon off of the guest list. So Nathan, the prophet Nathan, warns Bathsheba about Adonijah's plan, and so and that he's having this dinner to sort of elevate himself to the throne. And so Bathsheba goes to David to tell him what's going on. And she says, "Why is Adonijah the king? What about Solomon? I thought we had a plan going."
Yeah.
Nathan pops in to confirm what Bathsheba is telling David. And so David promises that Solomon will be king. And he says, "Bring me Solomon." He anoints him right then and there.
Done.
Well, Adonijah hears about what David has done, and he gets really afraid. So he runs to the tent of meeting and he grabs the horns of the altar. And so if you're listening, the altar had these 4 corners that were raised, and in an effort to like beg for mercy or for sanctuary, you could go and grab the horns of the altar. And so Solomon, when he sees this, he says, "Okay, fine, I'll show you mercy." And he goes, "Go home. Like, be gone."
Get out, shoo.
Yeah. So chapter 2 of 1 Kings, we've got David's last words again. They're a little different though.
Yeah, it takes a long while for some of these guys to die.
Yeah, I mean, really. As David says, he's talking to Solomon. "Be strong, be a man, guard what is owed to God, follow the law, don't give Joab a peaceful death."
I mean,
All things you might say as you're parting from this world. Anyway, so then David lay down with his ancestors, which just means he died.
Yeah.
And he was buried in David's city, his own city. And it says he ruled 40 years, 7 years in Hebron, and then 30 years in Jerusalem, which just means he was in like a smaller territory at first, and then he ruled over the whole kingdom for the next 33 years. And now Solomon is in charge.
All right, go Saul. Amen.
Right. SOL.
oh, yeah.
So Adonijah, this is the brother that tried
Yeah.
to take over the throne. He goes to Bathsheba. This was a really weird exchange, I thought, for Bathsheba to ask Solomon, her son, if Adonijah can marry Abishag.
That's a lot.
It's too much, and frankly, I don't trust him.
No. I don't either. He
But
is.
Solomon didn't trust him either.
Yep.
So he kills him.
Yeah.
I'm done with you.
Yep.
No horns of the altar to grab onto here.
Sorry.
Joab has sided with Adonijah. And Joab's
Oh.
kind of been a thorn the whole time.
Yes, he has.
Well, he finds out that Solomon has killed Adonijah, and now he's at the horns of the altar, hanging
my
on.
Goodness.
And Solomon's like, nah, dude.
That's not how.
And
this
they're like,
works.
get out of the Lord's tent. And Joab's like, you know
Over
what?
My dead body.
That's exactly
Yes.
right. And so he died there.
Yeah.
He did die. And then Solomon kills a couple more people just to
because. I
well,
guess.
I mean, you got to clear out the pathway, and then he's done. And then chapter 3 comes around, and it tells us that Solomon married Pharaoh's daughter.
Wait.
This whole story. is,
My, how the turntables, right?
Yes.
Didn't we part ways, like, I don't know, around Moses' era?
Wild, honestly.
Is this our era of reconciliation or just what's going on?
I don't know. I mean, I think Solomon's just trying to gather up as much power as he can. It says he loved the Lord. He followed the law, except for these teensy weensy tiny little infractions called sacrificing and burning incense to idols.
Yeah.
Not so good.
I mean, come on, dude. So anyway, one time he was at Gideon and he was offering a sacrifice to God. And this is the famous story we all know about Solomon. If you know one thing about Solomon's life, you probably know this story.
I remember being way too young and being kind of traumatized by this story.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I just think I was lying to myself and I was like, I definitely would have asked for wisdom. Like, no, I wouldn't have.
Yeah. No.
No.
Yikes.
So, God comes to Solomon and he's like, ask whatever you wish and you'll have it. And Solomon says, you've given my father David so much. And now here I am. I'm so young. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to ask for wisdom and a discerning mind. And, God was very happy that Solomon did this. And so he was like, sure. And also here's some wealth and here's some fame too.
Yeah. You can be all these things.
But then this is the part that kind of stuck out to me this time. He wakes up and he realizes it was all a dream.
Ruh-roh.
So was this really God coming to him or was it just a dream?
It could,
Or both? Because
it
we
could
know
be
that
both,
God
'cause
talks to us in dreams.
Dreams or visions.
At least in scripture.
Depending on which kingdom they were from, really depicted on what kind of prophecy experience they had. Visions or dreams. Southern kingdom was dreaming, and northern kingdom was usually visions, and so that would kind of fit right in.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So then right next in chapter 3, we've got the tale of two prostitutes.
Yeah. This is the one that
Tale as old as time.
triggered me.
Sure.
This is the one. Yeah.
Oh, and this used to be my favorite VBS story, Virginia.
of course it did, Jenny.
I think they left off the profession in the VBS.
They did. It was just two unnamed,
Women.
unspecified women. That's right. But so these two women come before the king, who is now sharing his wisdom with everybody. And they come with a baby and they're like, this baby is mine. And the other one's like, no, it's mine. And then the other woman says, no, that woman's baby died during the night.
Yeah.
And so she came over and took my baby. And the other one said, no, this here baby is mine.
Here's
Yeah.
mine.
Finally, Solomon had it with their incessant fighting. And so he's like, all right, give me a sword and the baby.
Everybody's gonna get half.
Wait. Yeah.
So he says, I'm going to cut the baby in half and I'll give each of you a half. And so then the one of the ladies is like, no. Just give the baby to her. Never
Yeah.
mind.
So that's just off the wall. First of all, wouldn't you know, as a mother, like, wouldn't you have like a birthmark or something, a trait or something? That's like extreme. I want to cut the baby in half.
Well, the other lady is like, yeah, if I can't have the baby, no one can.
Yeah.
Cut it
Who
up.
would say that?
They wouldn't.
I don't know. Unless there was some like other issues the mom had
So is this
maybe.
like a thing, or is it just like a parable, or what's going on?
And so then Solomon knew that the woman who offered to give the baby away in order to save its life was the true mother.
I think it's just a story for us to be like, you know what? That's Solomon. He was a wise man.
He was a dude. He was a wise dude. Absolutely. No, I think you're right. I mean, I will say, so last week when I was in Chicago, we were doing an improv exercise and I made a cut the baby in half comment and it does not play as well outside of a
jeez.
biblical.
Oh, jeez.
It context.
No.
So
Sorry, guys.
my bad. My bad. Yeah, I did love this story though, because I didn't actually care about Solomon. I thought the woman who offered to give her baby away in order to save its life was really brave.
Yes. Yes.
So also, why was I learning this in VBS?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Chapter
Same.
4. Solomon is king, and here are all of the people he ever worked with. I don't need that list. Do you all?
He's like,
Okay.
I need to list out my administrative officers.
That's right.
Real
That's
fast.
right. He also mentions he has 40 horses for chariots and an extra 12,000 horses, just in case.
40,000.
40,000. I'm sorry.
Yes. So many.
That's a lot.
Did I say any numbers in there? 40,000 horses for chariots and an extra 12,000.
Yeah.
I guess
Just to have on
Just for
hand.
fun.
throughout the chapter 2, he also talks about his knowledge of plants and all the animals and the birds and the reptiles, apparently. Yeah.
Oh, I skimmed right on over that. My
Oh,
fault.
my goodness. Oh, no.
It does say he was wiser than anyone, even more so than the famous Easterners, and he was definitely wiser than Ethan.
Ethan.
You know what?
He was-
Whoever Ethan is, I am smarter than
That's
him.
right. Ethan is so base. Anyway, did I use that right? I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Don't tell me if I didn't. Day 80. We're in 1 Kings 5. 5 and 6 is exciting because this is David's dream come true. Solomon is going to build the temple. He calls in the Phoenicians, contracts
course.
with them because they have the best craftsmen.
They are top notch.
They have the best wood supply. Cedars of Lebanon is thrown
yeah.
around here. Mm-hmm. Also, he has 70,000 laborers and another 80,000 stone cutters.
Don't have
This
enough
is a-
chariots and horses for them all. So I guess he's done all
a
that.
very like multi-episode arc of like an HGTV bougie show.
For sure,
Yeah.
for
Like,
sure.
About to happen.
He's like, can I do some of the demo to save money?
Yeah.
Anyway, and it says in the 480th year after Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign, that's when they broke ground on the temple.
It's a long time.
This is a long time. It was, and I need you all to remember these dimensions. The temple was 90 feet long,
Okay.
30 feet wide, and 45 feet high.
Nice.
It was made in cedars and pines, the most beautiful woods,
Probably
paneling
smelled amazing.
everywhere. It was covered in pure gold. Winged creatures, pomegranates, and gourds were carved in the art and in sculpture. I mean, in the wood and in art and sculpture.
gourds, you know?
Right.
Just real classy.
And it took 7 years to finish. Okay.
Okay.
So then that's nice. But then in chapter 7,
Yeah.
you know, if God has a nice place to lay God's head,
Right.
you know, Solomon needs something.
Yeah, I need a little hideaway or a getaway,
Yeah.
I guess.
So he starts building a palace after the temple's done. And, well, anyway, I'm going to give you the palace dimensions
Oh.
now. So this is God, creator of the universe. What were those dimensions again?
Yeah.
90 feet long, 30 feet wide, 45 feet high. Okay.
90,
this
30,
is Solomon's
45.
temple. 150 feet long,
Oh,
70 feet wide, 45 feet high.
Well,
It's 10,000 square feet. Is that what you looked it up?
10,500 square feet.
Oh.
gravy.
And if it was a medium house today, it would be $2.3 million.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
The
nice.
average square foot in Arkansas is 1,860 for
Nice.
a single family home. And compared to my loft, my ice cube den, remember I love the cold, which is 686 square foot.
Nice.
It would take 15 of those to make the palace.
To make the what?
Make the palace.
15 of your
Only
studio.
15?
Of my lofts. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, it's not as big as I. So the temple is kind of teeny tiny.
It's not massive, but it's for that day.
Yeah,
It was
that's
huge.
true. You're right. Then it talks about some more nice stuff that they've added to the temple. There's some huge bronze pillars. There's a tank of cast metal that could hold 2,000 baths. I'm not sure about that. 10 bronze stands and 10 wash basins. You know what I'm missing here?
A wash basin.
No, lamp stands.
Lamps.
No.
Can we bring back the lamps?
So in chapter 8, it's time to dedicate the temple. Everyone in Israel Israel came out to the festival. They brought the Ark of the Covenant and the tent of meeting, and so many oxen and sheep were sacrificed. And then Solomon gives the longest speech and prayer ever. It just went on and on.
It is
and
very,
on.
very
I need him
long.
to tighten it up. Tighten it up, Solomon. And so he tells the story of David, and then really like kind of leans into his own story. He wants to make sure they all know how accomplished he is. So in chapter 9, God consecrates the temple, and he reminds Solomon that if he walks with God and obeys all the commandments, it will go well for him. His throne will be strong forever. But if his sons don't follow God, what?
God will remove Israel, and they will become a joke.
Yep.
A joke.
And then God will take the temple from them.
So God wasn't too upset about the temple being a little bit smaller.
Seems fine.
But don't mess up.
Nah.
Because I will make you a joke.
Also, this is clearly foreshadowing.
Right.
Chapter 10, Queen of Sheba
Woo,
on the scene.
Yes.
Anyway, she heard about Solomon and all of his wisdom and his God. And so she came to test him with riddles, saucy minx. Anyway, I don't know. She brought camels with spices, gold, and precious stones. And so she talked to him for a while, and she asked him everything she could think of, and she could not stump him no matter how hard she tried. And this was very amazing for her. And so she gave him a bunch of gifts, and then she went on home.
What was that show not too long ago? It was a British host, and she would like have her own face.
Yes,
and
yes.
She would go and ask all
Yes,
the questions.
yes.
That's what I envision here.
Oh, so good. What it's a satire, world history and satire on Netflix. I know what you're talking about.
I will say one thing that's super interesting in chapter 10 is that it specifies that he had 666 talents of gold annually.
Oh, mine said kickars of gold.
Oh, okay. But they used the 666
Yeah.
in here.
It's fine.
I mean, I'm not afraid of numbers. I just thought it was interesting.
It is very interesting.
610 or something.
Something or
It's-
six.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll
Yes.
get there.
And it also randomly says he made 200 body-sized shields of hammered gold.
Just in case.
Just as you do. He also made a very large ivory throne covered in pure gold. I think that sounds amazing. Is pure
yeah.
gold different in quality than
It's softer.
hammered gold? Okay. So that makes sense because the hammered gold
Yeah.
would need to be for a shield. So chapter 11, we've got God coming back again because Solomon is not getting it.
Come on, dude.
He comes back to warn him. He says, you're making some choices here. Solomon apparently has an eye for foreign wives.
Yeah, how many wives or women do you need, dude?
Right. So,
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like Rockefeller, just a little bit more. Anyway, he said that about money, to be clear, not women.
Right.
Yeah.
But God's like, please don't intermarry with these foreign wives because you'll end up worshiping their idols.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
And but it says Solomon loved these women and clung to them, which is an interesting way.
1,000 of them?
All of them. No, they describe it this way because it's the same language that the Israelite people are supposed to feel about God and the law. They're supposed to love God with all their heart and cling to the commandments. But something else, or should I say someone's else, have replaced Solomon's priorities.
Yeah.
So
As soon as she said that, I think the heater turned on, and it smells like burning.
Okay. I was like, does everyone else?
Wrath is coming
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Well, or we're all having a stroke because I was like, I smell burnt toast. Is everyone
my
else
gosh.
Okay? All right.
Yep.
rebuke that in the name of Jesus. Okay, so the
Amen.
older Solomon got, the further away he drifted from God. He even, of course, started building shrines to other gods. And God is like, you know what? That's it.
Come on, dude.
David's dynasty is off,
Do you know what I
canceled. And what were you going to
You know
say?
what I kind of miss right now is the rereading of the law.
You know, now I get why they did it so many
so
times.
much, and now it's like maybe they should.
Yeah.
Maybe they should, actually. Yeah.
So God cuts off David's lineage, but he does save one tribe for Solomon's son in honor of David.
That's sweet.
And this is really where we see the deterioration of the monarchy. Now, Hadad, the Edomite, which means he's a descendant of Esau, remember, he comes in to oppose Solomon. And then another opponent arose to Solomon. His name was Rezon.
Sounds
Look at me for
fancy and hip.
And then also Jeroboam, who
Ooh.
is one of Solomon's own officials, begins to take a stand against Solomon and his rule. So Abijah, the prophet, tells Jeroboam that God is going to take the kingdom from Solomon's line. And Abijah says, why don't you be king to Jeroboam? And this is obviously what's going to happen. Solomon dies after reigning for 40 years. Rehoboam, Solomon's son, is named king, but Jeroboam has something to say about that.
No, of course he does.
That's a good long haul. I mean, 40 years. Usually they're like, what, 20, 30 at the, I mean.
I think David's was 40. I think that's on purpose.
Solomon didn't get a dramatic death thing like his father did.
No, he didn't, because we were like, we don't need to hear more from him.
Yeah.
Chapter 12, Israel goes to Shechem, and they're going to gather around Rehoboam, Solomon's son, and make him king. But then Jeroboam shows up and he's like, there's a new sheriff in town.
I tell you what.
There's a snake in my boots.
Oh my goodness.
And the people are like, ooh, this is interesting, because
Yeah.
that old sheriff made us work a little too hard. Too much work. So then some of the elders are like, hey, Rehoboam, you have a chance here to be kind towards the crowds and really garner their favor and make them like you, warm up a bit. And he's like, you know what? I am going to see what my friends have to say about that. So he goes and asks his friends, like, what should I do with all the crowds? And they're like, tell them you'll make their lives miserable even more.
That sounds like a great campaign.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Or a terrible one, maybe.
Right. Okay. Then that was not a good campaign slogan. You're right, Chase. So the northern tribes is like, you know what? Peace out, Jesse's lineage. We out.
Yeah.
And so Rehoboam only rules over the people of Judah, which is the south.
Yes.
And then God does say, please don't make war with the north. Like, just be nice. Jeroboam is like, we got to get people out of the temple. So he doesn't want them to go down to the temple in Jerusalem to worship, which is the heart of Judah.
Right.
So he has this great idea.
This is a wonderful idea.
This is a great idea. So he's like, I know what we can do. We will build 2 golden calves, one for each end of the city of Dan.
He's not learned.
And then people can come and worship Yahweh there.
It's just amazing to me that they were like,
The cycle.
you know what we have to have?
Yeah.
A golden cow.
Right.
Right.
And it has to be that.
Has
Because
to be.
we've never heard of this before.
No.
Right.
This is
not what?
And this is going to lead into something that's just absolutely wonderful.
But why that shape? Why? Again, yikes.
Great question.
Come on, be more creative, guys.
Anyway, that did not end well. But anyway, chapter 13. There's a man who came into Jeroboam's
Ooh,
altar
mystery.
area. And he prophesied about Josiah, who was going to be from David's line. And Jeroboam felt very threatened by this, but he went to like reach his hand out and do something bad with it.
Yeah.
And his hand gets stiff.
Whoa.
And around the same time, and this actually makes me wonder if he freaked out and started flailing, but it doesn't matter because the altar broke and the ashes are scattered all around. And so Jeroboam's like, please return my hand to normal. And so then the prophet's like, fine. Bleh. And he does. He's like, all right, come to my home. I'm going to give you a gift. We'll eat. And the guy's like, no, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to eat or drink while I'm in this territory.
Right.
Right. But there's another prophet in the north in Jeroboam's territory in Bethel. And he sees the prophet from Judah and he's like, come on in. Have a bite to eat. And
This is a bizarre
it's
story.
So bizarre. And then the original prophet's like, I can't, I'm not allowed. God said no. And he's like, but I'm also a prophet of God.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I didn't know that. So he goes in and he eats and drinks and it's like I could just picture him taking like the final bite of steak. And he's like, that was good. And he's like, you are rebellious. Rebelling against God.
Bait and switch.
It's so weird. Yes.
Yeah.
So this might be a trait like we'll see prophets do.
And it only gets weirder, though.
It's like, what?
Yeah, so the guy's like, well, I got to get out of here. Like, I got to go back to Judah. And as soon as he left, a lion attacked him on the way home and he died.
Yeah.
The end. So Jeroboam, like, we know his kingdom isn't going to end well.
Right.
It's not quite over yet, though. First, his son gets sick, Abijah. And I need y'all to just hold these names in your head, okay?
Abijah.
Abijah, because then the prophet Ahijah
Oh. Ahijah. Sorry. Ahijah. Can we start that now? Oh my gosh.
Amazing. I'm confident these are not how these are really pronounced, but this is what we're going with in here. The southern kingdom of the United States. Anyway, so Ahijah gives a message from God to Jeroboam, and God says via the prophet, because you did not do what I commanded you to do, your house will be eliminated. In fact, it says, I will eliminate everyone who urinates on a wall, whether slave or free. And this was savage. It just means all the men.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah,
well, it is. There's places in like England or London when you're walking around that has like a slope because so many men would pee on the sides of things that they made it to where it would splash back on them.
Ew. Yeah, and that is...
It's a thing y'all do, apparently.
No,
everywhere.
It just means anybody who pees standing up, which are the men. So all the men in Jeroboam's house are going to be... So
done for.
Jeroboam had 22 years, and he was succeeded by his son Nadab. Meanwhile, Rehoboam was 41 when he became king, and he ruled for 17 years. There's this like random interlude about the king of Egypt attacking Jerusalem, seizing the treasures of the temple, and then he was always warring with Jeroboam. That's Rehoboam was warring with Jeroboam, and then Rehoboam's son Abijam succeeded him as king. Okay. We can move a little more quickly through these because it's pretty Abijam, which is Rehoboam's son. This is in the south. This is the southern kingdom.
Okay.
Abijam is bad like his father. That's it.
Okay.
Enough said. His son Asa succeeded him as king. Okay, Asa was not so bad.
Oh, no.
He ruled for 41 years. He removed the temple prostitutes and took down many of the
male ones, yeah.
And took down the shrines. And then he used some of the temple treasuries to make treaties with Aram, in order so that Aram would break their treaty with the northern kingdom of Israel, and they would go on the attack together, because now King Bathsheba is up there, and they're gonna mess with him. Also, fun fact: Asa got gout in his old age.
Yeah,
just
stay away from the shellfish.
Quick mention about that. His son.
Sorry.
No, you're
good. Does it mention anything about his grandmother? Of how he deposes his grandmother? Her name is Maacha.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because she made an abominable image.
An Asherah pole or something like that.
How dare she?
I know.
That grandma.
Stop it, Grams. Anyway, so Jehoshaphat succeeds him as king. Meanwhile, back in Israel, this is the north, Nadab is still ruling.
That guy.
He is bad, very evil. He is killed by Bathsheba. Bathsheba takes his place. Bathsheba attacked all of Jeroboam's house and wiped out his entire family. Bathsheba is also bad, very evil. Chapter 16. The word of God came to Jehu against Bathsheba. And he says, you are bad. Dogs will eat your family. Birds will eat your loved ones. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
This is a new phrase, and it's repetitive. So it's like, I wonder if this is like commonality in the literature and like the storytelling.
This is definitely how they pronounce judgment on someone back then.
This is our end phrase for this segment.
Yeah. So birds will eat your loved ones. Elah is next. This is Baasha's son. But he got drunk and was killed.
Of course.
As you do. Zimri is next. This is Elah's officer, no family relation. He only lasted 7 days because one of the cities he was in got attacked, and he got so mad that he went in and burned the city down around him.
He did.
Samson.
Yeah.
Samson vibes. Omri is next.
I do like that name.
I do like that name too.
Not the person.
No. Do what I say, not as I do, or anyway, never mind. Omri did so much evil, it was way more than all the rest. Except for Ahab, who succeeded Omri, who walked in the sins of Jeroboam. That is strong language because you're supposed to walk in the way of God, right? But no, he walked in the sins of Jeroboam. He made an Asherah pole. My notes auto-corrected to ashtray pole.
Oh my God.
He made an Asherah pole. He married the single most evil woman to ever live. We all know who that is, right? Really?
Is it
That's what they call all women.
Oh, okay.
Jezebel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was brain farting major.
Yeah.
And it would not come out my mouth.
We'll talk about Jezebel a little later. I like to think she's a little more complicated, but all in all,
Her story
a
is
bad read on the Bible. Ahab worshipped Baal, and he was very evil. Bad dude. But chapter 17, day 83, 1 Kings 17. Enter who?
Elijah.
Elijah.
Not to be confused with Elisha.
Or
No,
Alicia.
Alicia.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do it that way. We'll pronounce it correctly. Even though this is also probably like Eliha, but it's fine. Elijah, he comes in the scene and he has got a message from God for Ahab. And he says,
Sorry. Just got excited about the next note. Go ahead.
he says, there's going to be a drought. No rain is going to fall because of all of the evil that Ahab has done.
Yeah.
And so there's a drought, there's famine. Ahab is mad at Elijah. God, tells Elijah to run, and he's hiding, but he's so hungry. And he's by this cave by himself. He's got like a little babbling brook that he can drink from. But who is going to help him?
Ooh, I might be doing
We
this
got to
next week at the
see
Wesley.
maybe the place where this
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
All three of us, when we went to Israel, there was this.
Did you guys know we went to the Holy Land together?
We did.
I don't. Have we said that yet? There was this like cavern-esque kind of cut out by the river, and it was a good hike down, and you could see these caves everywhere. So all these little crosses everywhere too on the mountainside, because pilgrims would go to this area and they would not eat until they saw a vision, and then when they saw a vision, like they would put up a cross. But while we were there, our tour guide told us an interesting story about the ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this section, it says that ravens brought Elijah meat and bread. But our tour guide told us that an alternative translation for Erevim, which is raven, is, well, something that sounds very similar, but it means Arab.
Yeah.
Like neighboring Arab tribal groups. And the point was, of course, it would be a miracle if ravens were dropping meat and bread, and not completely outlandish, because birds do gather and drop things. But
They don't
also
bring you snacks.
But also the idea that a neighboring Gentile people group might come and find Elijah and care for him. I don't know. That might be a miracle too.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Absolutely.
Anyway, after Elijah's done there, he stumbles across a widow from Zarephath, which is also in Gentile territory. It's not in the kingdom. And it's interesting that he goes to her, a widow, not an Israelite, for help rather than his own people. Now, while he's there, this is a pretty famous story. He says, please, would you make me some bread? And she says, I only have a tiny bit of oil and a tiny bit of flour left. And basically, our plan for me and my son is to just eat it and then die. This sounds dramatic. I think she's really like, this is all we have left. Like, we're going to starve to death after this. So I don't have anything to offer you. But he says, just trust me. Go and make the bread and see what happens. So this is God does a miracle.
Yeah.
The oil is multiplied. The flour is multiplied. They have plenty until the drought and the famine is over. And he stays with them a while. But somewhere along the way, her son gets sick and dies.
Yep.
A widow's only son.
Yeah.
Now, we've been in the Bible long enough to know that an unmarried woman or a widow has financial issues.
Right.
It's unstable. Especially if she's taking care of a child. But at some point, this young son would grow up and would be able to earn a living and help support his mother. But if he dies too, she's really left without a child and without any hope. Yeah. So she goes to Elijah and she's like, look, you have been here. I helped you. And now what has happened? My son has died.
Yeah.
So Elijah goes and kind of performs this ritual task.
It's a little odd.
It is odd.
He stretches himself over the boy 3 times and prays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this like primitive CPR? Just kidding.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm kidding. But anyway, her son is raised from the dead. And she becomes, I think, a believer in God.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, that's any other thoughts on that?
It's that barrier breaking, like, I don't know, just that grace of God extending beyond the bounds.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah.
It's so true. Because in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, rather, in the early church, it becomes, do we let Gentiles in? And really the story has always been, of course we do.
Yeah.
So, chapter 18, this is prime VBS real estate.
Yep.
Yes.
We've got Elijah versus the prophets of Baal. The issue is we need rain.
Yeah.
The crops are failing.
do.
The animals are dying. The people are thirsty. There's not enough to go around. And so the idea is to set up a contest on Mount Carmel between the
We need a
prophets of
contest.
Baal and Elijah, the lone righteous prophet of God, or so he says. And so
Nothing. Well,
And so they set these up. They set up an altar to Baal, and the first group who can get fire to be called down on the altar is the winner.
I mean, was this to me like this would happen at like their fairgrounds?
Uh huh.
Like
what are
different
these
things.
gentlemen? Step right up.
Exactly, like because there's 450 prophets.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's taking turns.
Yep.
It's a whole weekend event.
So the prophets of Baal are chanting. They're dancing around all day. They cry out, they're like, "Can you hear us? Send fire down and light our fire." I don't know, whatever you say,
Right.
For a sacrifice. And finally, nothing happens. Of course, Elijah starts taunting them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, is he asleep? Is he resting? Did he go on vacation? Anyway, and they're Right.
It's very much that.
yeah. So then Elijah sets up his altar, and not only that, but then he douses it with water. How many times? Several times.
Yeah. I mean, he soaks
Drenches
it.
the wood, drenches the altar and all the ground around it, and then he prays one prayer, and God immediately.
Boom!
Yeah.
There it happens.
And everything is consumed, and the sacrifice is burnt up. And then this is the part that they don't talk about in the VBS story. Then he went and killed all 450 other prophets.
He did.
Bam.
I mean, he won, so
That's
I guess
true.
that's the
Fair's
prize.
fair.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what happens at the fairgrounds when you go, Virginia?
I mean, no, I don't go.
Okay. So then this is also funny. Elijah's like, okay, go to the sea. What do you see? And the guy's like, I can't see it. And like 7 times or something he sends
yeah.
him, go to the sea. And what do you see? I don't see anything. The last time he's like, okay, I see a tiny little cloud, approximately the size of a hand. And it looks like it's moving towards shore. And the rain is coming. Finally. So, but Elijah's still on the run. And I mean, even maybe more so now that he's killed 450
Yeah.
of Baal's
That's a lot.
prophets. Jezebel finds out.
Ooh, girl.
And she's mad. And so she sends Elijah a threatening message. She's like, I will kill you and the birds will eat your loved ones. Or I don't know,
Get
whatever.
with the birds.
I don't know.
More birds.
I don't know. I don't know if she said that, but I'm just assuming that was like the local threat. So he's running away. He's tired. He's hangry. And God's like, what are you doing here, Elijah? And he's like, I'm doing what you said.
Yeah,
I'm the
hey.
only one left. I've been faithful.
Yeah.
And anyway, an angel comes to him and he's like, they're like, oh, honey, just why don't you eat something and take a little nappy, see how you feel. But Elijah wakes up and he is like, he's really tired. He's emotionally tired. He's like, God, just end it now. I can't do this anymore. But God, and so God's like, listen, you just need a little zhuzh, I think. So he's like, go stand by the mountain. And this is that beautiful scene where a strong wind comes through, right? But God was not in the wind.
God's not there. No.
And then an earthquake happens. The rocks are split.
What?
God's got to be there.
God's
Nothing.
not there. Fire comes. Is God there? Nope. And then after the fire, there was a quiet stillness, right?
Yep.
Or a silence, or we've heard this translated in many ways. And then God speaks. And he says, Elijah, why are you here? And Elijah repeats the exact same thing. He says, I've been very passionate for the Lord. I'm the only true prophet left. And but I like to think that his tone shifted. The first time he's like, and he's like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And God's like, listen, let's do a couple of things. Go ahead and anoint Ahazel as the king of Aram. pin on that because I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Jehu, anoint him as king of Israel. That's the northern kingdom. And then God says, I've got a man named Elisha,
Yeah.
and he's going to be the prophet who will succeed you.
yeah, you're
going
gonna
to have some help.
kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's very beautiful. I think there are, it reminds me, this story of times when we feel like we're doing the good work, right? But we are stinking tired and we're
Yep.
mad
Yep.
and we feel like a little self-righteous. I like to feel that way sometimes. And God's like, all right, have a snack and come on over here and let me speak to you in the stillness and the quiet after all of the chaos is
Yep.
done.
Yeah.
And then we can still be like, God, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I've been working really hard, but I'm tired. And God's like, I'm going to bring you some help.
Yes. So like we put a pin in Azel as king of Aram,
Mm-hmm.
and that's interesting because the next story that we get is with King Ben Hadad. I'm going to call him Ben, who gathers an army. King Ben is also of Aram. When he gathers an army, he gathers 32 other kings with him, and so I wonder if Azel is part of that. So we'll kind of see if that plays out. And so what he does is Ben sends a messenger to Samaria with a warning. He says, you know what? Your silver and gold are mine. Your fairest wives and children are also mine. And so the Israel king gets this message and he responds, sounds good to me. So
No harm, no foul.
he's like, I don't want to go to war. And Ben's like, okay, well, I'll pick them up tomorrow. How about this time? Does that sound okay? And so meanwhile, Israel's king goes and reaches out to the elders and to let them know what's going on. And they were like, you know what? You probably shouldn't do that. So now we're in a negotiation. Israel's king sends a messenger back to Bad Ben. And he's like, I'll do whatever. Just not hand over my family or money.
Yeah, so everything you said, I'm not going to do that.
Right. Just that's not part of this deal. And then Bad Ben didn't like the response and started bragging. It's like, you know what? I've got all of this, and my gods do this, and this, and then we're going to get you. And the straw that broke the donkey's back was when the king of Israel said, you know what? One should not put on armor and brag like one who takes it off. I was like, what? Or you shouldn't celebrate before the game's over.
Oh.
You never know. You never know what's going on.
Brandon would say, act like you've been there before.
Yeah. Ooh, I like
That's
that.
good too. Yeah.
And so Bad Ben's like, strap up. So the prophet tells the king to do this of Israel and to send the young governors of districts. And also the king of Israel has to go out to battle. And so they won the battle, but not the war yet. So Bad Ben escapes via the horse and the cavalry.
Oh.
And then the prophet tells the king of Israel to reset, regroup, because in the spring, Bad Ben's coming back. They're going to be another fight. You know, I don't know if that's a really good prophecy or not. It's
Yeah,
like-
that sounds... It's more like what is. Yeah.
So there's this new strategy for the Arameans to fight Israel. They said, you know what, we can fight them in the valley because they're in the hills, and their God is the God of the mountains and the hills, while our God is gods of the plain.
And they felt like that was better?
Yeah. So we're going to bring them on our home court, and we're going to, we got the advantage with our gods of the flat fields.
Flat field gods. Got it.
So they build their army back up, and then there's this unnamed prophet that comes up when they go to battle. This is just as a man of God says, because they don't think that our God is also the God over the valley, he's the God on the mountain and the God in the valley.
Has he been
You don't know
saying
that?
He
all
literally-
of this?
he
just
literally
so he
told
could
this story just so he could sing that.
Sing the
It's
song.
like because God is God
Go rest
everywhere.
high on the mountain with the Father and the Son.
Wow. Okay. So.
And the Holy Spirit. I like
That's
to
right,
make that
the Trinity. You
Trinitarian.
gotta
Yeah.
have the trio up there.
Right.
So the unnamed prophet says because they don't think God is also the God over the valley, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And
they did. Yeah.
And some escaped, like to a nearby city, and Bad Ben was one of them. He escaped with the group, with some of his servants, and they get together and they say, well, I think that the king of Israel, like all the kings, they're kind of merciful. So let's put on some sackcloth and a rope
On our
on our
heads.
head,
Yeah.
like you do.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And then go ask, for some peace.
Yeah.
And so they go up to the king, and a treaty is drawn, and Bad Ben said, you know what I'll do is I'll restore all that my father took from your father, And then you can also set up bazaars
Yeah.
in Damascus.
Ooh.
I was like, ooh, I want a bazaar.
Yeah.
Like-
I bet they sell some
like
really
the
great
United Women in Faith type
Yeah.
of bazaar. Okay,
It's just a marketplace.
artisan crafts.
got you.
Yeah.
Clay
Yes.
earrings.
Yes, clay earrings.
And then we have this random story in there. Then there's this prophet. This prophet walks around, and so it's like, what? Was Elijah and Elisha the only prophets? I mean, there was a lot of people that were prophets.
Oh no, Elijah just thought he was the only righteous one
Yeah,
left.
he was like,
He's like all these
That's
yahoos.
just me.
I
Yeah.
was like, man.
I know.
there's some other stories.
He look, Bible characters have a flair for the dramatic. I relate to that.
same.
This is kind of a dramatic story. So this prophet, and this is that bait and switch story too. So this prophet is walking around and asks someone to strike him, and they didn't. And so the prophet says, because you didn't listen to me, you're going to be killed by a lion. And they were. What? And then,
This is insane.
Oh,
No
amazing.
one's gonna mess with me.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
no,
That's
I told you to hit
Told you
me.
to slap me.
Told you to.
And so
Oh,
the prophet
lion.
runs across somebody else on the road and is like, hey, hit me. And they did. And so now he's got this like whelps and bruises. And he's like, okay, cool.
But the guy wasn't eaten by a lion.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then next, the
This is
prophet
so bizarre.
waits
Yes.
for the king. And now the prophet is wounded, having been struck by the other person. And then he also puts another Band-Aid on his other eye. And then the king comes by and he tells the king the story. And I just was like, what? And here's the story. It says this. Your servant went out into the battlefield, and a soldier turned and brought me a man and said, guard this man. If he's missing, your life shall be given for his life.
Thank you.
Or else you shall pay a talent of silver.
Oh.
While your servant was busy here and there, the guy went away. And the king of Israel said to him, so shall it be your judgment. You have decided what it is. And then he quickly took the bandage away from his eye, and the king of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. And he said to him, thus says the Lord, because you have let the man go whom I have devoted to destruction, therefore your life shall be for his life and your people for his people. What?
I have no idea. The king of Israel set out toward home, resentful and sullen, and then came to Samaria.
Like, I would have said the same thing. It's like, if you made
Yeah.
that deal, that's
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the guy's like, well, I'm a prophet. And so evidently, because he didn't stand up for him.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I think they're just trying to these kingdoms are going to be like destroyed. They just need a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then this interlude is so weird.
Yeah.
But it does play out because the king does lose everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the king has this palace, and right next to the king's palace is Naboth's vineyard.
Right.
That sounds like a great restaurant. I'd love to go to
Naboth's vineyard. Ooh, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
So Ahab is the king, right? So Ahab is like, you know what? That looks nice. Give me that. I want some of those grapes, and it's right here. It's very convenient. I'll give you another vineyard. I just want that one. And
Yeah.
Naboth says, you know what? The Lord forbade me to get forbade. I'm
For-
gonna start using that. The Lord forbade me, forbid me to give you my ancestral inheritance. And here goes Ahab, just spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
He went home, lied down in his bed, turned away from everybody, and stopped eating.
Yeah. And Jezebel's
a
like,
child.
what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, what's up? And of course, he's like, I wanted the vineyard next door.
wanted
He wouldn't
it.
give it to me. Jezebel's like,
He said God said he couldn't.
Jezebel's like, listen, go eat, have some bread. I'll take care of this.
Which honestly, don't we always have to take care of everything?
I mean, and
We do.
So Jezebel does. She takes care of it.
Oh, she does.
And she wrote a letter in Arab's name and used the seal.
In
And
Ahab's name.
Ahab, yeah, Aaron. Ahab's name, used the seal. And so if it's sealed, you know it's definitely from the king.
And this is just savage. This is
It's a
Game of
lot.
Thrones.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she sends it to
House of Dragons, if
the
you will.
elders around kind of in Naboth's area. And she's like, you know what? Bring him to a table. Put two scoundrels. We love this word.
Oh, so
Scoundrels opposite of him. Have them bring up charges against him saying that he's bad-mouthing God.
Yep.
Bad-mouthing the king. And you know what? Take him out and stone him.
stone him.
And they do.
Yep.
And here,
So they invite him to this place of
Yeah.
prominence,
Yeah.
and once he's at
Yeah.
the table, they're like, "Yeah,
Okay.
It's
This
total
is a red
setup.
wedding
Yeah.
type of situation
Ooh,
here. Yeah.
Good reference."
and Elijah hears about this. He's like, you know what? Let's send a message. So it sends a message to the king and says this. In the place where dogs licked up the blood of Naboth, dogs will also lick up your blood.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
So Ahab's like, bro, what? And Elijah's like, you sold yourself to evil. I will bring disaster on you. I'll consume you and all of your household. Back to the peeing on the walls, I guess. And if they aren't in the city where the dogs will eat them, then the birds of the air will feast on their flesh of your household.
Animals are going to find him.
Yeah.
For those who die in the open
Birds will
country.
eat your loved ones.
Yeah. So if you're in the city, dogs will eat you. If your fam is in the fields, don't worry, we got it. Birds will eat you.
Yeah.
And so, and you know, honestly, Jezebel gets a bad rap for this. But here's the thing. This was not like a one-off event for Ahab. He was guilty of always going after the wrong things.
Yeah.
He acted most abominably in going after idols throughout his tenure, and specifically things from other cultures that have been removed from the lands. And so this is not just a story about Jezebel. I mean, this is Ahab had it coming.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the other thing. Jezebel obviously is one of the villains here, and rightfully so. But she's really just primarily a villain in the Israelite story,
Yeah.
because I've often heard it said if the tables were turned and she was in, Gentile territory and was doing these things and like all these machinations
Yeah.
or whatever. Did I say that word right?
Sounded good.
It sounded good.
Okay. Don't tell me if I didn't. Anyway, and like she's arranging all these things. I mean, she's a pretty smart lady.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's crafty.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so
So Ahab was like, oh gosh. So he shreds his clothes, puts on a little sackcloth, and was like, I'm sad. And because he was humbled, he was spared. So God's like, you know what? I'm not going to bring up all that wrath on you that I talked about, the dogs eating you and your family and the birds and the fields and all that good stuff. But your sons, they're going to get the wrath.
machinations.
Right?
I googled it.
Machinations.
That's like number 5 of our ADD moments today.
Yeah. Anyway,
So we go on to chapter 22.
this is the last
The
chapter in our
last-
reading.
yep.
Yes, there's like 3 years of peace, which was great. But the third year, King Jehoshaphat of Judah came down to the king of Israel. I love this story. We did a play.
Yeah.
When I was in
Jumpin' Jehoshaphat.
Oh,
that's
Fat
right.
Jehoshaphat.
What?
We did fat Jehoshaphat. What a good king was he? He's a good king who's everything a good king should be. Everybody loves him. He's the one we all adore because fat Jehoshaphat loves the Lord. And then he fasted, but that's in Chronicles. So we'll get that later.
Are you done?
Flashback to 3rd grade. That was awesome. Okay. So there's an alliance between these two groups to go against Aram, and Jehoshaphat sought after the Lord's advice. And so the kings get together and to find a prophet. They gathered around 400 prophets, and all of them said, "Go for it, go to war." And Jehoshaphat said, "Is there another prophet?" And the king's like, "There's one more." But I don't like him
Oh yeah, he's a bad one.
because he never prophesies anything positive.
Yeah, and you know what?
You know what?
There
I
has
need
to
the
be a balance.
positivity.
Like, I will take your critical feedback, but I need you to say something nice every once in a while.
That's right.
Amen.
I don't think it's that hard.
And then my autocorrect said Michigan. That's not the name of the prophet,
I wish it was though.
Yeah.
but it's close to
Prophet
it.
Michigan.
Micaiah.
Yeah, Micaiah. So Micaiah comes up. And so here's the picture. It's like the two kings are on the throne and they're all robed up in their glory. And all the prophets are like, yeah, go for it. And Micaiah's like, listen, whatever the Lord tells me is what I'm going to say.
Sure. Yeah.
And all the other messengers are like, man, you should really say what everyone else is saying. Make the kings happy. And then Micaiah is like, nope, we shouldn't do this because y'all are going to fail. And then then there's some prophet drama, like Zedekiah slaps Micaiah and says, now which way did the Lord's Spirit pass me to speak to you? And Micaiah replies, you know what? You're going to find out the day when you go hide in an inner chamber.
Wow. These are really bad threats. Like these
Yeah.
aren't good.
I can just see them in battle, and then like Zedekiah being like, oh, he was right.
They're like, someday you'll go in your closet and you'll have self-reflection time.
Yeah.
And it will be hard.
So they go into battle. The king of Israel he says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disguise myself as a commoner.
Okay.
Jehoshaphat, you're going to stay robed up like you are here. And what we're going to do is we're going to see who they go after. But the king of Aram says, no, go after no one but the king. Don't kill anybody but the king. Small, large, whatever. So they go after Jehoshaphat thinking he's the king of Israel. Well, then as they come after him, Jehoshaphat's like, ah!
I'm Judah.
And evidently his cry was like different than the king of Israel. So they're all like, that's not him.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
not the
That's
one.
not what he sounds like.
That's I've heard him squeal, and that's not right.
You know what's going on
I mean-
there. But Jehoshaphat gets away. But some unknowing archer accidentally sends an arrow and shoots
Just
the king
willy-nilly.
of Israel.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now the king of Israel
It is interesting that we don't get a name for the king of Israel here during this time.
Right.
Anyway, we could probably figure it out, but
Jehoshaphat was about 35 when he began his reign over Judah. He remained there for 25 years. There's a lot of things that happen. The Bible says we do not get any of that information, but it might have been in the book of Annals, but it's not, and that's just the official record book of the kingdom.
yeah. And that reminds us that they would have had other historical records that have just not been, they're not extant anymore. So
Yeah.
we don't have them.
And then, like, we'll get another story. Again, we'll get a recap of this in Chronicles, which I
Yeah.
think is really neat. We'll get a little bit more information. But Uzziah reigned over Israel. And then, now that the king was dead, so Uzziah comes up. He's now reigning over Israel. Did what was evil in the sight of the Lord.
Yep.
Going after idols, worshiping Baal, like father, like son.
Yep,
Here we
yep,
go
yep.
Again. And then that kind of ends our time this week. But next week, we're going to find out what Elijah has in store.
Yeah.
Ooh, some of
deviant.
my favorite
Can't
scripture
wait. Can't wait.
is in the next bit.
You know, we see here there's a few good kings in Judah and in Israel, but we see the deterioration of the northern monarchy just falling further and further away from God and preparing for the exile that will be coming. The Assyrians are coming.
The Assyrians are coming.
Ah!
The Assyrians are coming.
Anyway, well, okay. Well done.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Good job.
Takeaways from this week.
Don't do what is evil on this side of the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does feel like we get that one a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's a good reminder that power, like you have to be really conscious and aware when you are in power because it's so easy to set up a bubble around you. And then you don't
need those people to check you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like the longer the monarchy ran, the fewer people who are willing to let others
I
correct.
also like the juxtaposition of, like, we built this great, wonderful, big temple, right? That's there where God dwells, but we also find God in that small whisper. So
Yeah,
God is we get this imagery of God expanding beyond along the gauntlet, I guess, or spectrum, or around the spectrum, even into grace, into people who were not Israelites.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Pushing boundaries. All right. Well, we'll be back again next week. Week 13. Are we still in First Kings? We'll be in Second Kings. That's
Yeah.
right. Good
I'm
times.
so excited.
Well, friends, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. And
Abida.
remember,
Abida.
Even when the Bible feels comfortable. Well, when will the Bible
don't
feel
know.
comfortable? I look forward to that time.
Yeah.
Even when the Bible feels complicated, there's one thing that's not complicated. That's that Jesus loves you. See you next week.
Bye.